Okay, so I want to talk about self-doubt. So if you saw my February plan with me, you know that my focus of the month is trying to overcome self-doubt. I always have kind of like a personal development focus of the month, and it's like, what's the most basic building block that I would like to work on this month? And then if every month I focus on the kind of the most basic building block, then, over the course of a year, then I've like really worked on some things. And I felt that this month self-doubt was really the thing that I needed to work on because it was stopping me from being consistent. The previous month, the character trait that I wanted to work on was consistency. And I found that it really is, I think, self-doubt is at the root of it. Like, even more basic for me to be able to consistently post videos, that it was like self-doubt that was really the problem. And it was causing me to be unmotivated. Like, this is one thing that you should probably assess in yourself, that if you want to do something creative or just anything in general, are you unmotivated? Which sometimes it really is a thing. You really are unmotivated. You don't want to do something. Or if it's something that you love and is really important to you, like maybe you want to write a book or write a song or start a YouTube channel or something like that, are you really unmotivated to get started? Or is it self-doubt? Because I've found that self-doubt sometimes is really at the root of things. And I've heard people talk about like insecurities, and for whatever reason, self-doubt and insecurity just like seems different to me. Like, I can't really articulate it. But when people talk about feeling insecure, I never really related to that. For some reason, maybe it's the connotation of it. I don't know. They don't seem that different to me. But when I think about self-doubt, it's more of like a pervasive doubting myself. Like, sometimes I think insecurity is more like one thing, like I'm insecure about my nose or something like that. Whereas with self-doubt, I found it's just like this pervasive not trusting myself. That I need to look to other people. Am I doing the right thing? Or on YouTube, I need to look to analytics. Am I doing the right videos and stuff? Because it's just like a lack of trusting myself, a doubting that I know what's right, or that I know what's best for myself, or doubting that I have good ideas. And that kind of self-doubt leads me to not like want to hang out with people sometimes. Like, there's introversion, and then there's introversion plus self-doubt that makes it feel like you have to wear like a mask when you go out in public, and that makes it like 1,000 times harder than like just being introverted. You know what I mean? Like, when I talk about like introverts, like energy battery draining over time, like it drains way faster if you're putting on a mask and you have self-doubt and you're insecure, and it makes it to where you like never want to take risks. You're like, oh, I don't know, like I can make a mistake anytime because I don't doubt myself, and if I make a mistake, I'm not going to realize that I made the mistake, and it just creates like this whole problem. So I realized that I had that sort of thing in myself, and I was like, I would really like to take this month to focus on self-doubt. And so I've done a few things that have been so impactful already. I mean, as soon as you recognize a problem, that's the first step, because then you can solve it generally like pretty quickly, or at least in my experience, it's just a matter of becoming aware of the problem. So the first thing that I did was I just journaled about it. I think I mentioned this in my last journaling video, but I just used the RAIN acronym. So it's like, recognize how I'm feeling and allow myself to feel that way. It's like, okay, I'm doubting myself. Let's not criticize myself for doubting myself. Like, we don't need to compound these layers like with self-doubt and then criticize myself for feeling self-doubt. So you like recognize that I'm like doubting myself and allow it to happen. And then investigate. So what I went through is I actually journaled on what types of things am I insecure about. Let me see if I can find these actually. But so I went through and I detailed all of the things that I tend to think like I'm not smart enough, I'm not X enough. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it actually. But I journaled on all these things, all the things that I felt insecure about. And then I flipped them into kind of, let me see, I don't know if you can see them. So they were basically the opposites. So I guess we can maybe figure out what it was. So it's like, I'm a blast. Like, sometimes I think I'm like boring. I'm like, I'm just like the most boring person to hang out with. So I'm like, I'm a blast. I'm profound. I was made to communicate on YouTube. I'm stunning. I'm magnetic. And I'm the coolest person I know. Randomly, this is kind of like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know if it's because like we went through like middle school and high school, and then like every like teen movie is all about like, are you cool or are you not cool? But for some reason, the affirmation, I am cool, is really impactful, and that seems so cheesy. Like, I fully admit that sounds really cheesy, and I almost like didn't write it down. I'm like, I'm cool. What a cheesy acronym, or what a cheesy affirmation to write down. But it actually like helps me. Like, if I go into social situations and I tell myself that I'm cool, it helps a lot. Okay, so I know it sounds cheesy, but it actually has been really impactful. So that's what I do. I also saw. Okay, I loved this thing. You can't hate yourself into a version that you love. I really liked that image. Because sometimes when I wrote down these affirmations, I was like, these aren't really true. I don't know if I really think these are true. Like, am I really a blast? And I was like, I need to just believe that it's true. I can't just like criticize myself into something that I love. Do you know what I mean? Like, the more that I criticize myself, the more unhappy that I get, and probably the more boring I am around people. And it's just this compounding cycle. Whereas if I thought positively about myself, I think I'd be more fun around other people, and the people would genuinely have more fun around me, and it kind of like snowballs in the opposite direction. The other thing that I do, I heard this from Rachel Hollis, at the end of the day, she says in the mirror, or supposedly she does, she says in the mirror, she like talks to herself, and she says everything that she was proud of herself that day. And that is so impactful, because when you think through the day, you're like, wow, I've actually done like a lot of really good things. I made a lot of really good choices. This is what I'm proud of myself today. And I have really liked that. If I get a chance to do that in the car mirror, like sometimes I've done that before I hang out with people, like in the car mirror on the way there. And that's been really impactful. So yeah, in addition to that, journaling has been super helpful. I just did a journaling video, so I guess you can reference that. The one that I did is like the Artist's Way journaling. So I'll just journal for like 10 minutes in the morning. That's been super helpful. Specifically with self-doubt. Okay, I did talk about this in that video, this new mindset who dis. I hate the name of this thing. And in some ways, you know, this journal's like so-so, but in the one way that I really like it, I really like some of these questions. Like, it's a different kind of like essay question every day, and it really digs into some things like, how comfortable are you meeting people you don't know? And you kind of unpack that, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm really kind of uncomfortable. Why is that? And you kind of unpack that, and I don't know, it just sparks things. Like this page, I randomly flipped to this page. What things do you still take personally? List those things and why you still take them personally. And so I think because this book is related to getting a better mindset, it's been really helpful. So they have a different essay question every day, but some of the questions are the same. So one question that stays the same every day is one thing I'm proud of about myself. So that's kind of similar to that mirror work, but I don't know. I think it's been super helpful. And then the other one, you know, I go on about this. Like, can I do a video without mentioning this? I don't know. But one thing is like 3 amazing things that happened today in daily affirmations. So you like say an affirmation every day. There are just lots of great things in general about this 5-minute journal, but those are some of the best. And finally, like the last thing that's helped so much is the question, what's the bare minimum I could do and still call it good? It's still get it done. Because sometimes I would just feel like so insecure or self-doubty or whatever we want to call it, that I wouldn't want to film a YouTube video. I'm like, it's going to be so much work and I'm going to have to do all this. But it's because I was holding myself to like these really high standards. And so I would just say to myself, like, what's the bare minimum I could do and still get it done? And then whenever I look back on it in retrospect, I'm like, wow, it's actually done pretty well. Like, you can't even tell that I was not putting my full effort into it. And so I think that's been one thing that's been super helpful. It's been a really good question. Like, if you are unmotivated and that unmotivatedness is because of self-doubt, and because of that self-doubt, you have these really high perfectionistic standards, sometimes to just have permission to be like, let's just set the bar low. What's the least amount we could do? And that makes it so much easier that I'm like, you know what? I could, if I was having these really high standards, I could outline a video for 2 hours. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to outline a video for 15 minutes. And then when I look back on it in retrospect, we're going to call it pretty good. And then over time, it gets better. But that's something that has been really helpful for me. So yeah, that's what I've been working on for self-doubt. So I've been really focusing on journaling and affirmation specifically. This little note card, I guess I didn't mention this before. Focus. This little note card I put with my deodorant, because I put on deodorant every day. So then every day when I'm doing my deodorant, I like look at the mirror and say these affirmations. But yeah, so that's been super helpful. So I totally recommend these things. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Let me know, like, do you struggle with self-doubt, and like what sort of stuff do you do? Because I'm still in the month of February, like still working on this thing. So I would love any suggestions that you guys have. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.